All right. Hello, everyone. I am your host, Annie Wilson, and this is Daily Space for today, May 21st, 2019. And it's going to be a little rough, and there's just stuff that happens. Oh, thank you for the subscription. This is such a good way to get started. All right. Hey, Puck, can you speak? Come on, Puck, speak. Woof. All right. So here's the Cheerios. Puck says thank you, I say thank you, and make it rain! And we'll make it sprinkle for Tinkerbell, who is off camera. Alright, so we got some news stories for you, some robots, some weather, some other technology goodness, and also, in case you didn't know, there's a launch tonight at, what did I say, 8 p.m. Eastern, which means I will be live no later than 7 p.m. Eastern. So I will remind you of that again at the end of today's news. If you have questions, both myself and Dr. Pamela are here, so please tag both CosmoQuest X and Starstrider with your questions, because I know enough astronomy to be dangerous, and Dr. Pamela is the astronomer. So, alright, let's do this. So, first up, robots! This is a diagram of Astro Bee. There are actually 3 of those up on the space station. And their names are, and this is adorable, Honeybee, Bumblebee, and Queen Bee. Isn't that sweet? They are free-flying robots. These are not Simon. There's no AI. They don't get sassy. They don't talk back. But there is a microphone and camera to allow ground control to both see and hear what's going on in the ISS, because not only can they function autonomously, they can be remote controlled by Houston. So, and these are in size, they're 1 foot by 1 foot cubes. I'm sorry I don't have the metric, but we'll have a picture of it next to a human in a second. And for those of you that are total geeks, it runs off of a combination, or rather they run off of a combination of Android and Linux. And yes, I know Android is based off of Linux. Oh, thank you for the host, Rocket Sage. Hey, Puck, can you speak? Come on, speak. All right, Tinker spoke. Tinker says thank you, I say thank you, and make it rain. I know you can't see the dogs, that's okay. And make it sprinkle for Tinkerbell. All right, so here's a picture of Anne McClain checking an Astro Bee unit. So they've been on the ISS for a little while. They're not operating quite as intended yet because they have to go through hardware checks. And the hardware checks are literally to make sure that they are operating as they should be in microgravity, as, you know, was expected to be. Because these were designed and built and tested here on Earth, where there's gravity and less radiation and things, and plus maybe something happened in flight, maybe not. But they want to make sure that all the Astro Bee units are working properly before sending them to go do all of those mundane chores, like checking to make sure the tools are where they are, and checking environmental things, because astronauts and cosmonauts' time is very, very, very expensive. So anything to, you know, free up their time to go do things that robots can't do is awesome. All right, so that was our robot-y goodness for today, and I will bring you updates on this as they're up and running and functioning, because robots are awesome. All right, so some of you may have been noticing that the weather's getting more extreme. Currently, we have the first named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season, Andrea, spinning in the Atlantic, driven by high ocean temperatures. That's freaking terrifying. I've never lived on the coast, never lived through a hurricane, but that's terrifying. So, in addition to these already named storms, we have a band of tornado-inducing storms moving through the U.S. at the moment. Having already devastated Texas and Oklahoma, they are now zeroing in on Missouri and Illinois. these are driven by extreme hot and cold temperatures violently mixing, and I feel like it's still a little early for, tornado season. And I know not everyone everywhere experiences tornadoes. Here's the major difference between tornadoes and hurricanes. We can see that a hurricane is coming. We can see it develop out of a tropical storm. We can kind of predict the path of a hurricane. We can't do that with tornadoes. The best we can do with tornadoes is watches and warnings of this area might get hit by a tornado, but we can't pinpoint which area. So it might hit your town, or it might hit 3 towns over. And the damage that, tornadoes do is kind of amazing. I've seen aftermath where lifted off the roof of a barn and deposited it in a pasture. I've seen trailer trucks, semi-trucks, 18-wheelers, whatever you want to call them, like knocked over on their sides, also in the middle of pastures. And this is kind of a normal thing, as in this is weather phenomenon when you grow up in the Midwest that you're kind of used to. As in, yeah, you know what tornado sirens sound like and what to do and where to go. As a reminder, if you hear a siren and you're not sure what it is, it's probably a tornado siren. So find a good place to hide without a whole lot of glass and other things. If you have a basement, go to the basement. If you don't, interior as much as you can, as little glass as possible, and try to cover yourself up with a blanket to avoid getting hit by, getting cut up by glass. Okay. So, all of this weather is a global issue with more powerful hurricanes hitting India and Africa earlier this year. Already this year. We're only in the 5th month of this year, and they're already hitting. So, the reason for these more powerful storms is climate change. We're seeing our ocean temperatures rise, and the heat in the water becomes moisture and energy in storms. That's actually how they get bigger, is by pulling up all this warm moisture that's essentially evaporated up off of the ocean and mixing in with the existing clouds and storms, which just makes them bigger. We're also seeing cold air from the Arctic getting displaced when that mixes with the warmer air, we get tornadoes. So the cold air doesn't really affect hurricanes so much, but it does, when you get that warm and the cold air clashing, it does create more tornadoes, which are terrifying. Terrifying. I know. So now all of this is bad, but we're at least getting better at saving lives thanks to weather forecasts and preparedness. Do you have an emergency kit? If you don't, you should. Micah McKinnon has a lot of tips on her Twitter account, and ready.gov is a good resource. Having a plan and having a kit is essential. Make sure, if nothing else, you have a meeting spot to go to after everything's passed, so you can see that everybody's okay. It's called a rally point. Unfortunately, our ability to see... I know, okay? It's bad news. I'm getting there. Unfortunately, our ability to see the bad weather coming is about to get wrecked by an unexpected enemy. Oh noes. 5G cellular service, which, because of the T-Mobile and Sprint merger, is going to be coming a lot faster to the US, and it's already slowly coming to different parts of the world, and it actually uses some of the same frequencies that had been getting used to measure the atmosphere by satellites. Yeah. Frequencies are divided up, and in the US controlled by the FCC, and certain frequencies are assigned to certain things. And yeah. So 5G is going to be awesome because, your mobile service will be faster. You can watch that last episode of Game of Thrones on your phone, but please don't do that. You really want to watch that on a bigger screen. But because of the bandwidth restrictions, it will also make it harder to predict exactly where tornadoes might touch down, which, as I mentioned, is already hard to do. We just say this area. So instead of it being this area, it might be this area. That's a lot bigger. That means a whole lot more people potentially in danger, or, you know, at the very least, a whole lot of people hiding in their basement that don't have to be. Or instead of it hitting in this area, like they predicted, it might hit over here in this area. So that's scary. That's scary. So here we are. 5G is coming because commercially it's good for the economy and it has the great return of it has the quick return of great connectivity. But more hurricanes and tornadoes are coming because we were jerks to our planet. And our ability to predict that bad weather is degraded by our better connection to the internet. I like the internet, but I also like knowing where tornadoes are going to hit. So, that is indeed, for real, the end of the news portion. So I'm going to flip back over to chat, and I am going to scroll up through chat to read your questions. And Hanny's asks, and Star Strider's already answered, can't the government keep a section of that clear? That would be the FAA, and they have decided not to. They are deliberately choosing not to. I don't know. I doubt this is something that we're going to be able to dial back. And everybody, there's a bunch of people that have a chunk of this, think of it as a pie, and the pie's cut into slices, and all these slices are frequency ranges, and a bunch of different people already have bunches of different slices. Like amateur radio has a slice of that pie, and that slice is cut into even smaller mini slices based on what frequencies you can broadcast on, depending on what license you have. For example, cell phone frequencies, 5G frequencies, are different and separate from, you know, amateur radio. Satellite frequencies are separate from even that. Your local TV, like, I'm not talking digital box or anything, I'm talking, you know, TV with an antenna on the wall or on your roof. That's another slice. So you have this slice, or you have this pie, and you're literally dividing up the slices depending on what some people feel is best, and not everybody has, you know, the same goals. So yeah, that's the answer to that. So now I'm going to scroll up and see more questions. Hanny's also asked, are we supposed to have larger but less frequent storms? That's more meteorology, and that's beyond my comfort level of answering, so I really don't know. It's kind of terrifying. Just all of it. Twister asks, is Tornado Alley shifting east like I saw in some articles, or is it really just expanding? So Tornado Alley, so the Midwest, from as far as I know, I don't think tornadoes hit too much on the West Coast or out by the Rockies, like where the Rockies peak is. I might be wrong about that. But from, I want to say, between the Rockies and apparently the Appalachian Mountains, which is a big expanse of the U.S. Let me see if I can pull up that slide to show you. Here we go. So the Rockies are, where's Colorado? So the Rockies are roughly, oh, you can't see my thing. Can I do a pointer? I can. So the Rockies are roughly through here. Oh, I can't mark. So the Rockies are roughly through here, and the Appalachians are roughly through here. So you have from like Ohio all the way through Kansas. So that's the width of it. But Tornado Alley is, I think, and I have to actually think about this. I think it's closer to being in here. So that would be like Arkansas through Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska. I think Tornado Alley's more in here, and that might have to do with the landscape. It might have to do with the fact that the Great Lakes are there. Again, I don't know enough of meteorology to really be speaking on what factors affect it, but the Great Lakes are essentially inland seas, and they do affect the weather, especially along those lakes. So the closer you are to the lakes, in the winter you get more snow. So like Michigan gets a lot of snow up around here. And other than that, I really can't speak of if it's shifting or not. But it is tornadoes are terrifying. Alright, I'm scrolling way up. Way up. So, Hanny's asking about the Astro Bee robots. Do they do stuff while the astronauts sleep as well? I imagine that would be a good time to check where all the tools are, because the tools, I think, are labeled with RF codes. And that way, because there's not a lot of space in the ISS, so that way they could fly through without really being in the way of the astronauts. I don't know if the lights are on all the time on the ISS, but yeah, so Star Strider says in response to that, sometimes they do, but in general, it is good to monitor our robot overlords. So I imagine that if they were doing stuff while the astronauts sleep, it would be controlled by Houston. Okay, they'll need to send a space Roomba next. Yeah, that would be awesome. Oh, see, here's a story of how terrifying tornadoes are. Dr. Pamela says, we had one come out of the sky and hit Kyle and I in my Jeep. So yeah, that's not fun. Susie says, I've been through both. Hazard of being in the South. Somebody that I work with at Ward Beecher Planetarium has also been through both, and the tornado was much more traumatic to her than the hurricane. Twister says it used to be March for us in Mississippi as far as beginning of tornado season. I'm looking over at the map. And I'm trying to find Mississippi without looking like an idiot. So Mississippi must be here because it's not labeled. Yeah. I think in April, Ohio had a tornado warning already. And Hanny's asked, what latitudes are tornadoes usually in? Do they hit the equator? I know that my friend in Brazil is terrified of tornadoes because, yeah, he's just never had to live with them. And I think it's more of a geographical thing. I don't think they'd hit near the equator because you need both warm and cool air to mix. So there's that. Yeah. And here we go. Alaria, I'm glad you enjoyed the show. I am only slightly mortified about everything. Only slightly mortified. The laser pointer must be to entertain the ISS cat. I don't know if my cat would play with a laser pointer. Impeller is the movement fan. Thank you, Gendraloon. I couldn't remember exactly what made the Astro Bee move, so here's that diagram again. So the impeller is this central part, the kind of light blue part, and I guess that's where, you know, oh, I guess I do see fan blades in there, so I guess it kind of, you know, pulls air through and pushes it, and that's how it does its thing. That's how it does its thing. Refsmat says, do these robots have a sense of humor setting like Case and Tars on Interstellar? No, there's no AI, so they don't have a personality of their own. They're just there. I would not be surprised if there's a speaker on them. So Houston could communicate through the robot to the astronauts. So it would be more of a person on the other side. And let's see, we covered that. So scroll all the way way down. The Mississippi affects weather too. Yeah, I'm not surprised by that either. It's just, I live near the Great Lakes, so I understand how the Great Lakes affects things. I don't live near a river, so I'm like, it's a big body of water. And Gendraloon also adds that the Astro Bees have a built-in flashlight. That's pretty freaking cool. Susie says, tornadoes are more terrifying and unpredictable. Hurricanes also spawn tornadoes, so that adds to the fun. I didn't know that hurricanes could spawn tornadoes. And apparently, volcanoes can also spawn tornadoes. What? Astro B points out, tornadoes are caused by large land masses in temperate zones, and hurricanes are caused by hot sea areas. That is indeed true. Cliff faces, dense forests, and large buildings can create sudden change in wind direction in which the wind folds in on itself and produces tornadoes. Yes, yes. And yeah, fire tornadoes are a thing, which that's not scary or anything. And there's water spouts, which are essentially tornadoes, but with water, and there's dust devils, which I think have the same physics of tornadoes, but with like dirt and stuff. Tornado be like, free energy, thanks. Pretty much. That's not scary or anything. I feel like, yep, there are two dogs. They're just out of camera range. They're learning. Not to mention Sharknado. Oof. I don't, part of me is like, I don't think a tornado could pick up a shark, but I've seen the aftermath of barn roofs coming off, so yeah. But I think the forces inside the tornado would harm and or kill the shark, so I think we're safe from Sharknado. There'd just be a random shark on the land somewhere that if everybody just left it alone, it would die. Or people could try to save it. Their choice. We have not mentioned typhoons in the Easter Globe. I don't know what the Easter Globe is. I really don't know what that is. Is it... like, I know you can Eastern Globe. I still don't understand. The eastern part of the globe? Eastern hemisphere? I don't know if typhoons... I don't think typhoons really happen here. I know that's a weather phenomenon that like Hong Kong and Japan have to deal with. which also seems terrifying. Because, you know, universities have things like, this is what to do in the event of, oh, hurricane is a typhoon. What? Then why are there different names? Why are there different names? That's confusing. Oh, English language, you are terrible. Typhoons, cyclones, and hurricanes are the same, I think. How about instead of, like... Because I think I was using cyclone for a waterspout. So now we're just going to call waterspout is waterspout. Different ocean, different tropical storm. Okay, fair enough. Yes, it's just what the Eastern culture calls them. Okay, okay. I get you. I mean, we said earlier that hurricanes hit India, so yeah. And here is a picture of that happening. Yeah, I'm almost certain this is India. I'm not the greatest at geography, so yeah, it's happened. We just called them hurricanes in the broadcast instead of typhoons. So yeah, it's happened. It's happened. That is India. All right, that's what I thought. Thank you for the tropical cyclone. Now you're all just messing with me. Oh, here's a link. This should be interesting. What is the difference? Hurricane, cyclone, typhoon, tornado. What's the difference? Okay, I know the difference between a tornado and the rest of those. And the first sentence of this article literally states the only difference between a hurricane, a cyclone, and a typhoon is the location the storm occurs. In the Atlantic and Northwest Pacific, the term hurricane is used. The same type of disturbance in the Northwest Pacific is called typhoon, and cyclones occur in the South Pacific and Indian Ocean. Oof, oof. Tropical cyclone or cyclone, what's the difference? A tropical cyclone is a generic term used by meteorologists to describe a rotating organized system of clouds and thunderstorms that originates over tropical or subtropical waters and has closed low-level circulation. But it doesn't say anything about cyclones. So I guess there's just that. Yeah, that's not mildly terrifying or anything. Not at all. Not at freaking all. So there's your answer, everybody. Directions? However, the rotation and also translation is opposite in the southern hemisphere, right? Guys! I don't know. I don't know the answer. Here we go. Tropical cyclones rotate counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere. And... see, I'm seeing in this article, I'm seeing the different classifications defined by wind speed. So apparently in the southern hemisphere, I guess they rotate clockwise. It's not really, it's not really clear. Also, I'm skimming this article, so yeah, it says, it only says counterclockwise for the northern hemisphere, so it's like Gem Doctor says the origins of those terms are Greek, Spanish, and Portuguese. That actually makes sense, and that's part of me is like, they're all European, but I mean, they colonize different parts of the world, so that makes sense. Refsmet says it's like, which way does the toilet flush water in his space toilet, clockwise or counterclockwise? Oh my. I mean, you don't flush water in a space toilet, so yeah, everything's just kind of sucked away from you by a fan. The rotation is due to the Coriolis effect. Ah, see, yeah, that makes sense. I'm vaguely remembering some of that stuff, but it's been a hot minute, guys. It's been a hot minute. Astro Beast asks, what time is the launch tonight? It is at midnight UTC, so that might not be a good time of day or night for you. And trying to think. It'll be on the East Coast, it'll be 8 p.m. On the West Coast, it'll be 5 p.m. And I will be streaming no later than 7 p.m. Eastern. So I haven't quite decided what we're going to do before the launch. I have Surviving Mars now. I have Astroneer. We could play card games on Tabletop Simulator. I have Moonbase Alpha, which is a free game on Steam. So midnight UTC is 1 a.m. here in the UK. Yeah. NASA skirted the question about toilet swirling. I don't know, because everything's pulled in by a fan, right? Well, okay, I shouldn't say everything. Liquid waste is pulled in by a fan. I think solid waste is also, everything's created by a suction, which is why I keep saying fans. So I think solid waste is, hey, I know. Oh my goodness. Hey. I know. That's enough. And apparently I thought I had muted and I did not. What is being launched? ISRO, which is India's space. I think it's Space Research Organization. So India's space program is launching a radar sat tonight on, I think it is indeed PSLV. That's Papa Sierra Lima Victor. And yeah. But yeah, suction is created by fans, so I don't know if there's any swirling. I imagine it would be, if there is swirling, it would be impacted by the fan. Now I kind of want to know. And I don't know if anybody's done a formal or informal experiment about this. So, yeah. Because I think when water gets loose, they either just go after it like, you know, playing with their food, or they try to capture it with a towel. So, Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle 2. Yes. I try to use the phonetic alphabet, which phonetic alphabet escapes me now, when there's acronyms involved. So ISRO is India, Sierra, Romeo, Oscar. Is it Oscar? I don't remember. I think it's Oscar. Just so it's clear what I'm saying, because I know I don't enunciate very well. Yeah, ISRO. Oscar is correct. Thank you. And it just so happens that, you know, it is India's space program, and India is the phonetic pronunciation for the letter I. So, NATO alphabet. Thank you, Michael T. Meyer. I knew it was something involved. And yes, I know the NATO alphabet. I don't know the Greek alphabet. I know. It's terrible, isn't it? Shh. Tinker, tinker. Annie says, when I think about eating on the ISS, I think of Homer eating a potato chip in space. I know, right? Oh, potato chips would get everywhere. We send India development aid. I don't know all about, I don't know hardly any global politics. I know India is a very large country, and there are definitely parts where there's people living in poverty and need food, and food distribution is actually harder than food production, so there's that. DPI says the Greek alphabet would be counterintuitive as well. Yeah, I know it is. That's why I haven't fully learned it. So, nothing crunchy that could break into bits, and nothing with crumbs too hard to wrangle in space. And Starstrider points out that India is considered part of the developing world per UN economic guidelines. And Hanny's asked, didn't India make the Mars orbiter mission? I'm not entirely too sure, and now there's beeping things outside. I don't remember. DPI says that yes, they do have a Mars orbiter, and Dr. Pamela says the difference between haves and have-nots in India is extreme, and the rural regions in India lack most basic forms of infrastructure. And by most basic forms of infrastructure, we mean flushing toilets and indoor plumbing and things like yeah, and there's some cultural issues surrounding toilets. Most places in the developing world, you dig a pit latrine, and then that latrine is cleaned out every so often. But there's a humongous taboo, and as well as the caste system, which I don't fully understand. But there's a humongous taboo about handling human waste in India. So when they do dig a pit latrine, they dig it either way larger than it needs to be, so nobody in the family, or they don't have to hire anybody out for many, many, many years, maybe even a generation. And yeah, because the people in the caste that are associated with that really are trying to separate themselves from that, and it's very complicated. And that's just toilets. The vast, Starstrider says, the vast size and mountains and desert climates make putting that infrastructure in very difficult. Yeah, mountains are not easy to get over. You can kind of drill through them, but it takes a lot of effort. And then there's the possibility of everything kind of collapsing and things of that nature. Like, there are tunnels through foothills of Appalachias in Pittsburgh, but there, as far as I know, there aren't tunnels through, like, the Rockies. At least to the extent. When you cross the Rockies in the US, you have to take mountain passes, which can be closed when they're not passable. And by not passable, I mean feet or meters of snow. I've been up on the pass in December, and I've had snow up to my waist. So, bricks. Hanny says, I always wondered who the S was in China. So, or was the S was in bricks. Oh, see you later, Astro B. Yeah. Brazil, Russia, China, and South Africa. Yeah. And India is also in there as well. So, yeah, it's complicated. Things that seem easy when you live in a flat area where there's already a lot of infrastructure are not so easy in other parts of the world where there is no infrastructure. So, yeah, there's that. Infrastructure is very important. It's very important. Here in the US, we're used to, and I'm just going to expand this to Canada and the UK as well, from my understanding, we're used to good roads, or at least passable highways that go everywhere. We're used to driving on asphalt. Yeah, it may be full of potholes, but we're used to driving on asphalt. In some parts of the world, you're lucky if it's a dirt road. And you're lucky if there's running water and a flushing toilet. You're lucky if there's cell phone service, things of that nature. And it's all very, very, very complicated. And I don't know a whole lot about it other than I know it's a thing and I know some details. So, you know, in Brazil or China, like where they've been dealing with, you know, what seems like minor infrastructure things like toilets, digging a pit latrine and emptying it out every few years isn't that big of a deal. Yeah, it's gross, but there's not the strong cultural taboo like there is in India. It's gross, but you can pay people good money to do it. Or, you know, you could get paid good money and want to make that good money to do it. It's just not that strong of a cultural taboo. There are people in India who would rather, I forget what they call it, but essentially go out in the open, which is go and relieve themselves in open fields, which can cause a problem. They'd rather do that sometimes than use a latrine, which can cause a problem because then diseases can spread, because there are diseases in human waste, and that could make, you know, really people with bad immune systems and children and, you know, people who are frail sick. So pit latrines are awesome because they kind of contain all of that and keep it from getting into the water supply. Meanwhile, going out into an open field and not properly taking care of your waste can be a health hazard. So, yeah. Cholera is a good example of that. I was trying to think of it. Cholera, yeah. So, anyways, that's depressing, and yeah, nobody really wants to deal with human waste or talk about human waste, but it's super important. It's super important, especially in space. I think that's pretty much all we had for you today. I hear beeping noises out on the street, and I want to go investigate that and wrangle my dogs in. Plus, I would like to... DPI has the famous spiral tunnel, too, for the railway. Oh, that's pretty cool. There are a couple tunnels in the Rockies. Oh, thank you, Jean Derloon. The Eisenhower Tunnel, that is one of them. Thank you for pointing that out. Again, a lot of times I speak from experience, and there's a lot of stuff I just don't know. So thank you for pointing that out. The spiral tunnels. That's really cool. And Kicking Horse Pass. DPI says, I suggest reading At Home by Bill Bryson. It's very informative. I will have to add that to my reading list after I finish, you know, some of my books about space toilets. Yeah, the tunnel is very informative. You found a Cheerio all the way out there. I think you walked past another Cheerio all the way out there. So yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap things up so I can take a break and get ready for tonight. Again, I will be streaming no later than 7 p.m. Eastern. That's 2300 hours UTC. It might be a bit earlier than that. It really depends on how I'm feeling. And we'll figure out something to do. You guys can either watch me play a new game, you can join me if you have the game, we'll figure it out. Henny says there's probably Cheerios in your car. There are indeed Cheerios in the car. Favorite Human found some in the back office of his workplace, which I thought was hilarious because I don't think they sell Cheerios there, and there's no reason Cheerios would be randomly on the floor like that unless he pulled them out of his pockets. So, but yeah, I'll wrap things up so I can take a break, eat lunch, get everything all settled in, make sure I have enough Cheerios for the dogs tonight, things of that nature, and yeah, if you're not already following us, give us a follow to get notified of when I do go live later tonight. That will also allow you to be notified of, future streams like Daily Space, which we do we do Daily Space Monday through Friday at 1700 hours UTC, 1 p.m. Eastern. When the time inevitably does change, just remember 1 p.m. Eastern. On Sundays, we also stream. Well, I stream on Sundays. And that is myself colorizing space telescope data. Right now I'm working on Spitzer data, and we have all of that sorted out, that I'm working with the right data. So now we just need to figure out how to do, what color goes with what channel. And, yeah, all this has been brought to you by CosmoQuest. And we do a whole lot more than stream on Twitter. You can come be beta testers for our Moon Mappers project on the website. And if you find bugs, please report them in the Moon Mappers Discord channel. That way, I know for me, I would rather do it that way, because that way I know other people have seen it instead of sending an email possibly into the void and not being sure that somebody's seen it. What else? Oh, our host institution is PSI, that's Planetary Science Institute in Tucson, Arizona, working in collaboration with Youngstown State University here in, it's alright outside today, Youngstown, Ohio. We are brought to you by you. So thank you for all of your donations, your bits, your subs, your pledges on Patreon, your merch purchases. Thank you for all of that. And if you can't afford any of that, that's okay. We get it. Follows are free. Coming and hanging out with us during a stream is free. Hanging out in our Discord with us is free. We're nice people. We don't bite. We're not scary, I promise. And oh yeah, if you miss an episode and it's no longer video on demand, it's gonna be archived on... I'm getting there! It'll be archived on YouTube. There are 2 CosmoQuest channels. You want the one with all of the videos, not the one with the one video. So, subscribe to that as well. And yeah, that's awesome. The videos usually go up after a day or so. Susie is awesome about that. And I think... Did I miss anything? It's hard to remember all the wall of text things. It really is. But I think that's everything. Hanny says, I think the dogs are just trying to say what you are saying. Aw. Hi, Rhyolite! Let me guess, you're done streaming. Because now we're going to be looking for someone to raid, and I know we've raided you a couple days in a row now. Yeah, you just caught me as I was finishing up. I am literally finishing up. Oh, bits for the dogs! Oh, no stream today? Oh, good, you have a day off. I'm so happy for you. And you were very welcome for the raids earlier. Alright, so Rhyolite, I don't think, has seen what happens when people donate bits. So, hey, Puck. Puck. Puck! Speak! Come on, speak! Oof. See, Tinker's picking it up faster than you are. Come on, Puck, speak! Alright, Puck and Tinker say thank you. I know, I'm getting there, Tinker! Puck and Tinker say thank you. I say thank you. Here are the Cheerios. We're gonna make it rain for Puck. And we're gonna make it sprinkle for Tinker, because Tinker's off screen, because Puck's a meanie. And, yeah. So, oh, Bother is streaming. Awesome. We can do it. Love it. I know. It's the greatest thing ever, isn't it? You get to see happy doggos. And the cat is screaming. Why? Why is the cat screaming? Why? Why is he screaming? I don't know if the cat's associated, you know... I think the cat's conditioned that when the dogs are barking, it's time to get fed. I think that's what's happening. And so he hears the dogs barking, and now he's like, all right, where's my food? Where's my food? Kitty misses mommy. Yeah, I think the cat and Tinker and maybe Puck and I are all gonna sit on the couch and chill out for a couple hours and just enjoy all being together. So that the cat is jealous of the dog's screen time. The cat is a jerk and jumps up on my desk and walks all over my keyboard. And I bought him these really cool treats so I could feed him treats on stream like I do for the dogs. He won't eat them when I'm at my desk. He will eat them when they're put in his food dish. He will eat them when they're put on top of his food. He will eat them out of the tube when I'm near his food dish, but he will not eat them in front of the camera. It is so annoying. It is so annoying. I'm like, you have all of these treats, cat. Please eat them. People want to see you. He's like, nah. I just want, my super awesome wet food. So, alright. So we've done all the things. We know who we're going to raid. We've talked about my cat and his annoyingness. So we're going to roll the credits as least awkwardly as we can. And then we're going to set up the raid. So thank you, everybody, for your patience today. Really, I really appreciate everybody's patience today. You all are amazing. You really, really are. So thank you for hanging in there with me. We made it through. We persevered. And I'm glad everybody got a laugh with the cat. And I will see you all later tonight. So until then, be awesome to each other. If it's dark out and the skies allow, look up and have a wonderful insert time of day here. Be that morning, day, afternoon, evening, or night. I will see you all later. Thank you again so much. Bye.